Hey everyone, Gill Gross here post-match Novak Djokovic versus Karen Khachanov, Roland Garros quarterfinal 2023. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Djokovic through to the semis, 4-set win over Khachanov. He lost the first set. He won the next 3. I'm going to start you off with a stat related to that. Since the start of 2021, Djokovic has lost the first set at a major on 15 separate occasions. He's won 13 of those matches. He is 13-2 after losing the first set since 2021 at majors. That's absurd stuff. And many of those wins came in 2021. This reminded me of 2021. The whole vibe and flow of the match, particularly at Wimbledon and the US Open, once it was clear that Djokovic had a chance to get the Grand Slam, he was coming out in these matches a little bit tight, not playing his best tennis in the first set. And then something would change where he either kind of tapped into a fight or flight response with his back against the wall or some kind of underdog mentality, and he would find his best, find a way when he really needed it, when things were looking a little bit more desperate for him, or his opponents would get a little bit uncomfortable front running and give him a lifeline. But then usually the further on the match went, and especially once Djokovic had a set under his belt, he would find his best level and start to roll and do the things on the court that he's able to do when he's at the peak of his powers. That's what happened in this match. Djokovic really didn't play all that well in the first or the second set until the second set tiebreak, which he won 7-love. It was a gem of a tiebreak. And then the third and the fourth set were really, really good by Novak. But Khachanov also deserves a lot of credit here. I think the crucial thing in this head-to-head is that Khachanov needs to be on the offensive. He can't afford to play defense against Djokovic because he's just not a good enough defender to withstand Novak's clinical precision. And in this case, in this match, his drop shots, which we'll talk about. And in order to not play a lot of defense, you got to get that early first aggressive strike in. That's easy to do on serve. It's very hard to do on return. I was really impressed with Khachanov's aggressive, powerful returning throughout the first set against Djokovic that, if it wasn't putting Khachanov in an advantageous position right away, it was at least putting him in a neutral position early on. And Karen was going really, really big off the ground on almost every ball and not missing a lot. And Djokovic was kind of on his heels. He wasn't as forceful on the forehand as he probably needs to be. He was attempting to use variety, and in some ways, it was backfiring. It was backfiring in cases where he was using the high ball and not finding Khachanov's backhand with it. Especially, he was trying to do that against the wind. So against the wind, he was throwing up the high ball, and if that high ball doesn't get to Khachanov's backhand, Karen is really good from a high contact point off of his forehand, and he's really good at generating. And when you're throwing in the slow high ball against the wind, it's not a lot of pace. But it's all day. It's all day for Khachanov's forehand to wind up, load up, and he puts everything he can into this heavy forehand. And now we have this heavy topspin forehand coming at Novak, a forehand that's being aided by the wind, with the wind, and Djokovic is being pushed back. And Karen did a really good job in the first set of finishing with his drop shot, which has been really the standout thing for Khachanov, in my opinion, throughout this tournament. That's been the big revelation for me is, wow, he's really gotten good at this shot. And that's something that I never thought he would be able to do because I've never thought too highly of Khachanov's soft hands. But credit to Karen. He's really developed that shot, forehand and backhand. So I was seeing a lot of that in the first set. But when Djokovic was broken, it actually wasn't against the wind. Novak was broken with the wind, and the big culprit for that was he tried to hit some impatient drop shots with the wind at his back. If you're going to hit a drop shot with the wind at your back, you need to be in great position to do it because the wind is going to make that harder on you. I thought that was a bad mistake for Novak, and it cost him the break of serve. Khachanov plays an excellent first set, and he wins it 6-4. In the second set, Karen really dipped. He really dropped off. I was stunned that Djokovic allowed this to go to a tiebreak. I mean, Khachanov played a really bad game at 4-5. Novak couldn't break. He played a really bad game at 5-6. Novak didn't break still. And it goes to a tiebreak, but then Djokovic wins at 7-love. He does a couple of things in this tiebreak, but I think what I want to highlight is here's where the high ball worked. So I kind of described the scenario in which case it didn't work. The case in which it does work is if it goes to Khachanov's backhand. Because while the Khachanov forehand is a pace-generating beast, heavy topspin pace-generating beast, the backhand is not that. It is a really good pace absorber, and he does a great job. It's quite compact. He takes it early really well. It's pretty flat, relatively flat, but when the ball is coming in slow and loopy, you can't really flatten it out, and Karen just can't get much on it. And he was going predictably cross-court. So when Djokovic was able to loop either his backhand cross or his forehand inside out or his forehand line, put a little extra air under it, and just giving Khachanov the low pace, high ball to the backhand, Novak was feasting. He was feasting either by stepping in and hitting the backhand drop shot off of that. Because remember, the high ball not only draws the slow Khachanov backhand cross court, it also pushes him back. Does both those things. Either that or Djokovic gets to step around and hit his forehand inside in. Or inside out, mostly inside in. But he did a good job of kind of attacking Khachanov's backhand in that way. Then after the second set, Djokovic really, on the forehand, dialed it up to a 10. And he started to build offensive patterns with regularity that Khachanov just had no answer for. I think the way Novak was using the weight of shot on his forehand to push Khachanov back and then go to the drop shot, not only was it the weight of shot that he was using, but also just the constant changes of direction that Djokovic is a master of, that Khachanov really can't do on the same level, especially forehand to forehand. There's such a big difference in Djokovic's ability to redirect and Khachanov, where his big, long, his big, crazy take back and his extreme grip. He's done a good job of understanding how to be consistent despite those things. But one thing Khachanov still can't do is really make precise changes of direction on the forehand. And Djokovic, so excellent with that. Same thing on the backhand, similar dynamic. And Novak with his constant changes of direction, getting Khachanov on the move, making him take those backwards angles to the ball. I just think it was a pretty clear strategy of let's kind of win the court, let's kind of wrestle away Khachanov's court position and then finish with the drop shot. And, Djokovic ended up winning in winners 57-38. And I don't think he won the winners count in the first set, so I'm pretty sure that was a reversal. Let me check this. Drop shots are a lot about what position you're able to get yourself into. It's an offensive shot. You can't hit the drop shot from defensive positions or neutral positions. So it's all about how you set it up. You've heard me in this analysis praise Khachanov's drop shot. Now you've heard me praise Djokovic's drop shot. So what gives here? Like, what's the difference? The difference is who is putting themselves in position to hit it. In the first set, that was Khachanov with his aggressive returning and his extreme power off the ground combined by Djokovic's, I guess, less offensive nature in the first set or lower confidence in the first set. And then from there on, particularly in the second and the third set, it was Djokovic's constant changes of direction combined with his heavy weight of shot on the forehand that was putting him in position to generate short balls. Also the high heavy to the backhand, same thing. Generate short balls, push Khachanov back, opens up the opportunity to actually use that shot. In the first set, winners were 12-11 Djokovic, but then again, for the match, it was 57-38 Djokovic. So you can see the difference in aggression. I also thought that Djokovic, while the forehand was really good in every area, I thought it was particularly good from inside the court. Khachanov does play a lot of short slice defense, and Djokovic was handling that ball beautifully on his forehand. Karen was really just not able to scramble, defend, use his legs, use his quickness to really combat the offensive barrage that Djokovic was throwing his way. In the fourth set, there was a slight opening for Khachanov to get back into the match, but at 4-all, he double faults. Djokovic hits a big return, a forehand inside-in forced error. Even by the end of the set, I thought Khachanov was doing so much running that his movement started to decline, and that only made it worse. So that's all I got on this match. A good win by Novak Djokovic, and he is through to the semis with just a pretty on-brand win by him in terms of just never panicking. His opponent inspired out of the gates, a little bit uncomfortable front running, incredible tiebreak from Djokovic, now 5-0 in tiebreaks at Roland Garros, and then just clicks into a gear that his opponent simply doesn't have. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.